Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to talk about enhancing your results by using follow-up prompts. Because ChatGPT is not going to give us like the perfect answer right off the bat. It's all about the follow-up. Just like sales, it's all about the follow-up. And so here are a list of techniques that you can use to follow up with your original prompts. Remember, you took the time to master the art of the perfect prompt by providing so much information and being very specific that ChatGPT, after one or two tries, gives you exactly what you want. And then you're using a digital notebook, but then you're like, you're still working with it, trying to get that perfect answer that you're looking for. So that's what we're going to use these follow-up prompts to expand on an idea. We're going to take a book, Atomic Habits. So I'm going to take the first one. First one, ask for elaboration, seeking more detail and clarification. Provide examples. Can you expand on that? So what I'm going to say is, we're going to go to our ChatGPT. I'm going to ask it, help me understand the main concepts and ideas from the book Atomic Habits. And then I want to be very specific because ChatGPT is going to be very verbose. Focus on the top 3 key ideas. That looks good. There we go. Yep, and then I'll press enter, see what we get. Great, Atomic Habits, and then it's going to provide examples. Power, 4 laws, making it easy. Let's say I'm like, the 4 laws of behavior change. And those are the laws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say I want to help me understand the 4 laws of behavior change. So I'm going to say, I could say elaborate on point 2. So I could say expand on point 2 with a point story meta for, I can't spell it, framework. So we're going to say, hey. So it's all about that follow-up. So I'm going to press that and it's going to go get number 2. It says, yeah, sure, I know which number 2 you're talking about. So it remembers, it knows the context of the conversation in the chat. And that's why you can always come back to the same original chat, and ChatGPT will know all the previous conversation and use that in future conversations. So that's why it's great to go back to your history and continue to build off original notes. It saves you from having to start from the scratch. So here it says, yeah, expands on point 2, and then it's going to give it to me in a point story metaphor framework, and then it gives me a summary. But let's say I want to create a quote. So let's say, give me the top quote from the book. You don't rise. I actually put this in my Instagram. You don't rise to the levels of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Oh my God, I am a system master. I love systems. Say now, okay, so give me that. We're going to do the next thing, which is translating it into another language or translating it in any way you want. Say I want to, we're going to get crazy. Translate the quote into Spanish. So we'll get it in Spanish. I'm not going to pretend to say it. But then I'm like, we're going to get crazy. Now we're going to translate that, but turn the English quote into a no. No, that's not going to work. I'm curious. It knows ASCII. It knows ASCII. ASCII is an old way to use computer text to visually use what is just lines to create an image. That's actually pretty funny. It used ASCII to respond. Can you say my name then? Put my name, Jonathan, N-A-S-C. That's so cool. You learn something new every day. It's like, sure. That is definitely not Jonathan. Honester. Here's the name Jonathan. No. See, sometimes it's not the best in translation, so you always have to check its work. But that's interesting. You could we just translate into another language and then into computer code. That's like what I'm getting at. Is like you could translate and mutate what you're working on in many different ways. It's really fascinating. Let's do proposing an improvement. I'm going to say very simple. we'll say, turn the main concept from the book Atomic Habits into a short, brief email less than 400 characters to my friend Bob. It's just like, okay, I'm going to take that and give it to you in a very short. Okay, cool. Key concept is focusing on consistency, incremental improvements, and we can achieve remarkable results. Now, what I want to do is improve or propose an improvement. I want to add a line. So we're going to say add a line, add, let's see, another quote and explain it like I'm 5. So now it's going to rewrite the same email and add the new thing that you wanted. So we can see the original, hope you're doing well, but now it's like, okay, we want this plus it's going to give you more. So you can always like add a call to action with a website link to download the book. And they'll rewrite it again. Now that's one way you can have it rewrite as you make changes. So see, now I just put the link so you could insert the link right there. So we're iterating, we're using, it's working with the same email or block of text, and then you're giving a command to improve upon it. But then sometimes you don't want to rewrite the whole thing. So then you could just take one part and you're like, write me a PS that he is awesome. Very simple. So now it's going to give me that PS. And also the reason why is because, say, for example, I'm just going to, oh, something happened, regen. There we go. So it adds the PS because sometimes you're like, yeah, I've been working with the email, and you're like, I don't want to work with the whole email. So I'm just going to, remember you always have your digital working notebook. So I'm like, yeah, that email works, but I'm going to go grab a PS. So then you give it a specific command and say, just give me this. You're like, okay, cool. And then you, what I call cherry pick and Frankenstein. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to put that over here. Now you could append it, but again, sometimes you're working on something that's too long and you're like, I just want this piece right here. And so that's where it's like, as the follow-up, you don't have to continue with the same original work. You could break it off into different pieces. But now we're going to move on to the next one, seeking additional examples. So super simple. We're just going to say, hey, help me understand main concepts using a point story metaphor. So it's just going to give me more examples. But then let's say I'm going to take the first point. Point story metaphor is actually a great way to understand a new concept. It gives you the focus point in 1 or 2 sentences. Gives you a story because we all learn through stories. And then you get a metaphor to reinforce the original concept. So this point story metaphor is actually a public speaking framework that some people use and the marketers use to drive a point home or a new concept into an audience, which is actually pretty cool. But let's say for example, actually help me understand the point story framework. My spelling is horrible. So certainly, I'm also not purposely proving a point that you could misspell, but you can get away with some misspellings, I would say. So help me understand the point story framework. It says certainly, here's a way to illustrate the concepts. Here's a way to understand the point. Here's a way to understand the story. And here's a way to understand the metaphor. So it's like when you want to use it, this is like that. So now we're using ChatGPT to expand to learn a new concept, such as point story metaphor. And you're like, who use it? As an example, are there any public speakers? It says, oh yes, Simon Sinek from Start With Why uses it. Brene Brown uses it. Tony Robbins uses it. Nancy Duarte uses it. These are just examples. So now we're using the follow-up process to expand on an idea. And now we're saying, ooh, invite a counter argument. Okay. Let's say, we'll go back to Atomic Habits. Provide a counter for the main principle or main concept. So provide me a counter argument for the book Atomic Habits and the main concept. So now we're like, don't give me exactly what came from the book. Give me some counter arguments and tell me why. And so it's going to be like, okay, the counter argument is this. Here's what explain why. And it's like, okay, so you can use this to challenge ideas, to see things from different point of views. I'm going to skip to this last one because this one is going to be the last main one that makes sense, is turn it into a step-by-step process. So now we could say, turn the main idea into a step-by-step process I can do to improve my life. Very simple. But all of this is in the same conversation. All of this is in the same follow-up. So certainly has concept and knows what you're talking about. So our commands could get a little less and less specific over time. But again, don't lose that specificity. Don't forget to be specific or else you'll get very verbose answers. So that's certainly, here's a step-by-step process to do it. Reflect on your desired outcome, break it down, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy. Great, these are step-by-steps that I can do. And you know what? I'm going to turn this into a 7-day action plan, short with actionable bullet points and journal entries to reflect end of day. So now we're going to turn it into a workbook. This is cool. This is okay. Day one, this is what you should focus on. Reflect on your desired outcomes, break down your goals, do your journal entry. Cool. So we're taking the same idea and we're just transmuting it. We're just translating it into different ways, turning it into an action plan. We've translated it to different languages. So we've asked for elaboration, requested a translation, proposed an improvement, sought additional examples. All of this is the follow-up so that you can refine your answer to either get a whole piece of what you want, if you want that whole, say this whole reply, or say for example you just want a section. You're like, yeah, I actually just want this right here, this first point. I'm gonna take that, put this in my digital notebook, and then I could work on it from there. So these are all different ways that you could use to enhance your results using the follow-up prompts. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next lesson.